Many know her as the co-founder of the celebrated Red Charity Gala, a vital platform for Filipino designers and charitable causes for more than a decade now. She's also the co-founder of W17, a brand that champions Filipino artisans and sustainable design. And now, as president of the Cultural Center of the Philippines, Kaye Tinga is steering the institution towards a future where arts and culture are accessible to all, with a keen focus on engaging the youth and fostering Filipino talent. Join us as we explore the journey and vision of Kaye Tinga here on Power Talks.
Initially, I thought it would just be like part of the board, which really excited me a lot because, of course, growing up, CCP was truly something that we all look up to. And the Philippines, in the heyday of arts and culture, was really a regional hub of activity. I guess like a lot of people, initially, we really see the cultural center as a building, as the country's premier theater. But the CCP is really more than that. W17 was with my partner, Andy Vasquez Prada, who's a complete genius, who knows design, who understands fabric. So we're very proud because it's locally designed, locally made, but at par with amongst the best in the world.
We also know you for is the Red Charity Gala.
Yes. It's actually quite it's interesting story. But I think if you had told me that very first year that I'm just going to do it for 14 years, I don't know if I would have done it. It's like, wow, that sounds like a commitment. We're not going to hire an artist just because they're Filipino. That's not enough. They have to be good. And that is on us to make sure that we're able to promote them.
Hi, Kaye. Well, first of all, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us. We know you wear very many hats. You're a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, and of course, you're at the helm of CCP, of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Style icon, mom, everything. When you think about yourself right now, which one of these perhaps energizes you the most or keeps you most occupied?
Oh, wow. Keeps me the most occupied would be being here at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. It's a full-time job plus more because...
There's a plus more.
Yeah, plus more because, of course, a lot of it is administrative and managerial, but more importantly, we represent the country in terms of arts and cultural activities, and we constantly produce new content, and also like our mandate is really to promote the arts. So that includes going everywhere, all over, to make sure that we engage our audiences, and that means I have to be there.
Well, we've always known you to be very involved and very active in culture and the arts, but I'm guessing it would be a very different thing to be actually president of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Were you hesitant to accept the job at the beginning?
Yes, initially I thought it would just be like part of the board, which really excited me a lot because, of course, growing up, CCP was truly something that we all look up to. And the Philippines, in the heyday of arts and culture, was really a regional hub of activity. So that was when I was growing up. I remember going to school. I would pass the CCP every day, and every day I'd look at what's happening. And I remember my very first day here, I was really just realized that, wow, this is really happening because I was a little girl and looking at everything that was happening. And it was all sorts of things. And I would always wonder, what is it today?
You mean you'd see the signs
outside?
The sign.
I didn't even actually start watching until I was in high school. But even as a young girl, I would always look at what's happening and be curious. What is Ramahari? What is the Bolshoi? What is, and we didn't have the internet then.
So if in high school you're already intrigued by CCP, the shows that they were holding inside CCP, does this mean that at a very young age, you were already very interested in arts and culture?
Yeah. Actually, yes, because we were lucky because I've been looking at the curriculum of schools now. And back in the day, you're much younger than me, but arts and music was an integral part of the curriculum. I didn't see it then, but now I realize the importance in terms of how it affects our thinking, our literacy, And that's how we got interested, whether it was high school in St. Scholastica's College, Manila, or UP when we studied humanities. At one point, you're like, how is this relevant? You know, like, I was studying economics. I'm going to business. I don't really need to know all the artists or all the movements or all the classical composers. But now you see that it's all part of creating a person's identity. It's been a year.
It's been a year. Okay, so what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had, that you've encountered so far?
I guess like a lot of people, initially, we really see the cultural center as a building, as the country's premier theater. But the CCP is really more than that. We're an institution that promotes the arts, develops audiences. And when I entered, it was with a lot of awe that I realized that includes arts education, cultural exchanges, creating cultural content, and archiving. So those are the things that surprised me. At the same time, realize how important the work of the CCP is.
You mentioned that people think of it now as a venue or as a building. Because I was telling our producers on the way here that I actually used to come here when I was a kid for acting lessons, for an acting workshop. So
exactly.
The CCP before was really, I mean, that's how we knew it.
Yes.
And then over time, maybe things got a little muddled. So now you're here to set the record straight and bring that back.
Yes, and I think it's always been this way, but I think there's more of a push to increase awareness that the CCP is a living institution. It's not a building, you know, and the fact that we are under renovation really gives us an opportunity to flex our muscles, to expand our wings, and to let people know that our job is really more than being a venue for film or plays or ballet. But it's really the promotion of arts and culture, the very best of arts and culture in the country.
Can you tell us a little bit about what to expect after the renovation when the CCP reopens its doors?
You know, the CCP was inaugurated in 1969, so this is the first major renovation.
Wow!
So,
since the 1969. So that's 50 or so years.
Yes, 50. 55, 56 years.
Yes.
So it will be a brand new CCP, at the same time, the same CCP. Of course, we're very proud of our building, which was designed by national artist Leandro Luxin. It's a heritage building, and we are really committed to maintain the building, the structure. It is perhaps the most iconic building in the whole of the Philippines, and we are really motivated to make sure that no changes in terms of the facade and even the interiors that were designed by the national artists. At the same time, it has to be more modern.
Very different.
Very different. I mean, in terms of the requirements, fire exits, lavatories, all these things, even the seating, even the stage will be different because there's new technology that will be more maybe more friendly for dancers. And the CCP, we are proud to have the best acoustics in the country. But with new technology, it will even be better because we house, you know, it's a mixed use theater. So, you know, it has to be good for the symphony, for plays, for dance, for concerts. So it has to be good for everything. So that's really something that we always keep in mind as we work through this whole rehabilitation and renovation.
So no wonder it's really gonna take a bit of time.
Yes.
So worth the wait naman once it reopens.
It will be worth the wait.
We know you as a style icon, like I
Thank
mentioned
you.
earlier, and you're actually really very known for you know, your sense of style, your interest in fashion as well. And you had mentioned before that your mom was pivotal in your exposure to fashion. Can you tell us a bit about that? What was the dynamic?
Actually, she's really my style inspiration. She always said, even before that, you know, how we present ourselves, and that's how important it is, how we present ourselves to the public. That's how you want to shape people's opinions and their opinion, and also more importantly, how you see yourself. And I'd like to think that fashion is maybe the most accessible form of art. Today, I'm feeling sad. I can use my clothes to make me happier or to reflect my angst. So, the same way, work of art, you look at it, day to day, it can be different also because art is only as good as the audience. That's what it's two-part. It's just a school of thought which I adhere to, that it's just one way. The piece of art is one part of it, but the audience is the second part. So even with fashion, I think it's no different.
So would your mom dress you up when you were kids? And at what age did you let her dress you up? You had how many siblings do you have?
We're 6, so 5 girls.
Wow, imagine that. It must have been so much fun also for her to dress all of you up.
Yes. At one point, by the time my youngest sister, I'm the 5th in 6. By the time my youngest sister got around, we all just had matching clothes. And me, being me, even at a young age, would be like, okay, we're all matching different colors, but I want my hair to be different. Like, I'd wear the belt as a headband, even when.
So you were talagang making waves already at that time.
I don't know how it sat with my mom, but that was me.
And so at what age did you say, Mom, I'm going to dress myself up now?
Maybe in high school.
By
then,
school. Okay.
Teenagers, so more difficult.
Did you do the same with your kids? Because your kids are bigger now, but
Yes.
when they were younger, would you do the same?
Yes, oh my God, absolutely. They were literally my Barbie dolls. And at one point, like me, they also like, no, no, Mom, nobody wears that anymore. I'm not 50, Like, of course, they're developing their own sense of style. But it's also funny now. They like to, instead of buying new clothes, they just look at my closet. So they'd rather wear my things. They're like, it's vintage. Ouch, but yes.
I was going to ask, isn't there a kilig factor when your kids borrow your clothes?
Yes, and it's the same dress, but they wear it differently because maybe it's a generation thing. It's the same dress. It's my dress that they're wearing now. They style it differently. Even the way they wear it is different. That's why it's really, you see, like the fluidity of fashion also, that it's not just, like an item. It also grows, it also develops, depending on who's wearing it.
So you mentioned that you now have 4 kids of your own,
Yes.
all grown up. How old is your eldest?
My eldest is 29 and my youngest is 17.
Oh, okay. So
wow.
that's a
Range.
nice range, yeah. So you still have a teenager, maybe somebody already old enough
Full
to
grown.
work. Yeah, full grown adult. Maybe we can go back to how your family started. Of course, it begins with your love story.
Yes. Oh, yes.
I'm trying to picture you. So in high school, you're very into the arts already, and then you went on to UP Diliman, and you
Yes.
studied humanities.
I studied economics.
Economics.
We were required to study humanities.
Oh, okay. So that's very far from the arts to study economics. Is it the course
Yes.
that you wanted to take, or?
Back in the day, you either become a doctor, an engineer, an architect, or what we called it, commerce. So, like now, kids are very lucky. They can study humanities or philosophy.
So many different.
Or cooking, and it's totally accepted. Back in the day, it was always like study first, like a practical course, and then you can do what you want later. So that's what happened with me.
And so you ended up in economics.
Yes.
But that wasn't yet where you met your
No.
husband, former Mayor Kaye Tinga.
Yes, we met. We both were management associates. We actually started off as friends. We were a group of 9, and it was fun. After that, they never had an intake of so many because I think, spent more time hanging out than actually working. We were really just friends, but like a lot of the best marriages, it really starts with friendship. And maybe 3-4 years later, for the first time, we found ourselves without partners. And that's when...
So when you first met, you both were
one or the other.
always at one point. Oh, it sounds like a movie.
I don't know about that.
So does it mean there was no long courtship because you had been friends already for a while?
Actually, yes. And I think it's the realization that you're not always at your best when you're with your friends. Like, you're in a bad mood, and it was okay. Like, we could stand each other like through different moods, through different times. So it was that. And then, at one point, you realize that, hey, it's really the one. He's the one for me.
And so I also read that you had lived in Hong Kong.
Yes.
You lived abroad for a while. How long were you abroad?
We were maybe about 2 years because he had started a tech company which was actually bought by a listed company in Hong Kong. So we had to move there. So we uprooted at that time. I only had 2 children.
But what was life abroad like? I mean, if you're used to being with your family here, meaning your siblings, your parents, and all. So what was it like abroad?
I really enjoy change. I really like something new. And luckily, that was the time when they first introduced SMS. So it was easy.
Wow!
Well, that long ago, when SMS was just new. So I could still keep in touch. And unlike when I was in school in the States in the 80s, it was already very cheap to call. Long distance. Before it was, I remember as a student in New York in the 80s, it was like I call my parents every so often. Enough na, mahal na, tama.
Sayang ang bayad.
Sayang ang bayad. But then when I started, so we were in touch and I enjoyed like maybe making that kind of life available to my children. And I knew that it wasn't going to be for a long time. That was maybe why it wasn't so difficult. If you had said, oh, you'll be there forever, maybe I would have been more reluctant. But I knew it was just going to be 1 or 2 years. So it was really very doable for me.
Oh, how old were your children at the time?
Oh, I only had 2. So I think my youngest must have been like 2 and the other one's 4. So it's very young.
And so I'm imagining that you were enjoying life, the private life in Hong Kong.
Very.
And then, of course, eventually, you entered politics. You became a political wife, for lack of a better term. And you said you were hesitant. It wasn't something you had wanted to begin with.
Yes, because my husband comes from a political family. And by the time we left, they were actually kind of semi out of politics because his company is still based here and in Hong Kong. So he'd come to Manila often, and then one day he called me. It's like, I'm running. Run for what? I was like, what?
Running 10K?
Yeah, I'm like, what? And then I remembered I was pretty stubborn, and I was like, okay, that was your decision. So, you go and run. I'm going to stay here with the kids. But then, of course, my mom was the one who convinced me to you can't do that. You're a family. So I helped him with his first campaign. And then after the campaign period, he had won. I still went back and worked again. But at one point, it was like the kids were practically growing up without me. Even if I was here, I thought it wasn't fair. So I made the call to I'll just stop working and then come here to be full-time mom.
Was that a difficult decision to make? Stop working?
Yes and no. Yes, because I was used to being busy. But then, being with the family, I guess that was like, I missed my family so much that it's like, it's okay. They even offered to hire me here, but I said, I missed too much time. Like, let me just, acclimatize myself here. And then before I made any moves.
And so how did you make that transition to helping your husband as a public servant and helping him in his political career?
I remembered one time my daughter, who was maybe 3, and then, show and tell. Like, what does your dad do? And she said, oh, my dad's a mayor. My mom just go shopping. She told me. That was when I realized, hey, wait a minute. Enough now of this, break from work. So I wanted to go back to work, but my husband said, there's so much you can do. My mother-in-law, also a political wife, was very active in the women's movement, in livelihood. He's like, maybe you can do that. So at first it was, so it was really like a gradual move into that kind of political wife role. But I really enjoyed it because you really feel that you're doing something that makes an impact on people's lives. And for the first time, because I was into banking, which I enjoyed, but also it was really, very limiting in terms of exposure. But that, you realize that, wow, I'm missing so much. I got to meet so many people, so many kinds of people, so many personalities, and being exposed to so many different things that I didn't think in my life would ever happen.
Do you sometimes miss doing that?
No.
What a quick answer. Maybe you should ask your husband
Yes.
and what he misses. So you moved on to establish also W17, and this is your being an entrepreneur coming out. Why did you think of putting up W17?
Cause like when you say miss, I don't miss it because the parts that I enjoy, I continue doing, which is like working with women's group, trying to help people who want to be entrepreneurs. So I kept doing that. So what I do not miss is like the political part, of course. So that's why I don't really miss it, or I never missed it because I continue to do so. And W17, because with my partner, Andy Vasquez Prada, who's a complete genius, who knows design, who understands fabric, make, all these things. And I felt like I was continuously learning, and we were able to adapt what our livelihood center, which would do, very traditional women's center kind of products, into like we were able to advance it and upgrade it to something that you can sell in expensive stores. It is not just like people would buy it because it's being sold by women's groups or being sold by this and that community, but because people want it, because it's beautiful, because it's well made. And that's when I guess I transitioned to that.
And until now, you're still very active in
yes, we still
in W17.
Yes, because I'm lucky. My partner is very active, and we have a really good team. And unless it's for big decisions, they can run it.
What are some of the pieces that you're most proud of at W17?
Wow. Well, one is our women's center, the Balikatan Women's Group. We still do napkin rings and tabletop items like trays and things like that. So we're very proud because it's locally designed, locally made, but at par with amongst the best in the world. And same with chairs and even our the things we create on our own chairs, whether it's a tray, it's cushions. And also what we've done is, I guess it's a very highly curated store. We also source from the best local producers. So whether it's here in Pampanga, Cebu, we seek out the best because there's no need to reinvent the wheel. We're not really a manufacturer. And we know that there are so many really good furniture and furniture makers here in the country.
Okay, so another thing that we also know you for is the Red Charity Gala.
Yes.
And you've been doing it for 14 years?
14 years, yes.
Co-chairing, that's like our version of the Met Gala here in the Philippines.
So I'd like to think so.
And how did it start? How did you get involved?
It's actually quite it's interesting story. I knew Tessa very casually, like, I see her in events or dinners or lunches, but we weren't really friends. But our first designer, Dennis Lustico, had the idea of holding at the time, it was his first major show, his first gala, and he had invited both of us. I was a supporter of Dennis since he started, and also Tessa. So he brought us together. And we really had such a good time, despite we had to cancel it because there was, I think it was Millennium, I forget, but one of the major typhoons. So our very first event, and we canceled. And because of that, we were still able to reschedule. We were still able to recover. So we realized, hey, it was fun working together. And then let's do it again and again. But I think if you had told me that very first year that I'm just going to do it for 14 years, I don't know if I would have done it. It's like, wow, this sounds like a commitment.
So it's just now you realize, it's been 14 years.
Exactly.
So that means you're enjoying it because it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a burden. What's the most fun part about organizing the Red Charity Gala for you?
It's because I don't have creative hands, but I like to think I have a creative mind, and like being able to work with, the best designers, the best production crew, our directors, and trying to making things come to life. Like with the Red Charity Gala, it always starts with the designer, his concept. Maybe that's what makes it different from other shows, in that the conceptualization is always the designer. You do what you want, and we will support it. And to have that carte blanche, I think that is a gift for a designer, that he can do what he wants. We don't tell him, oh, this year we want Victorian kind of design because that's uso, or this year it's like this kind of material, all piña or all Thai silk. Nothing. It's up to them to create what they want, and the ability to create with no restrictions is, I think, the biggest gift we can give a designer.
And because of your involvement in projects like the Red Charity Gala, you've been dubbed the charity queen.
Oh my God, I don't
Have
know.
you heard this?
No. Oh my God.
Does that come with a little pressure?
Oh, yeah.
Because then that means when people see you coming, they say, oh no, but baka she's gonna ask for donation.
Oh my God, yes. Nakakaya minsan.
Is it difficult to, well, first of all, you have to pinpoint which communities need to be, need funding or need funds, and then you have to find ways to help them.
Yes.
Is there a system to that?
Yes, at first it was really like strike anywhere. But at this point, we know like maybe the institutions or the companies, now there are partners, because I guess we have the same, with the same end goal. It's really to elevate Philippine fashion. You know, sometimes, like especially during the pandemic, a part of it's like, maybe it's done, we're done with Red Charity because pandemic, there was nothing happening. But, you know, we talked to designers, and I think that's what really inspired us to keep going. And they said, you should never stop, because it becomes a goal for the young designers to be a Red Charity designer. Because, you know, like I said previously, allowing them the freedom for to do a show based on what they want, based on what they're feeling at the moment, is a gift. And I guess that becomes a goal for young designers and an inspiration for them. So we'd like to keep doing that, if only for that. And of course for our for the charitable institutions that we support.
So aside also from your work with the Red Charity Gala, everything that we've discussed here at CCP, the list just goes on and on. You're also on the board of Mint College.
Yes.
And Mint is Mint stands for
Meridian International College. It started because maybe in the 2010, 2011. At the time, my husband had already moving out of politics, and he's always loved education. And we were talking about how there's a lack of creative institutions. Now you always hear creative industries, especially in the last few years. But even then, you could we were always saying how Filipinos are known for our artistry, for our talent, for natural creativity. And I guess the school is one way of putting everything into focus and teaching discipline to future theater directors, musicians, music editors. So that's how we saw it, and I think that's how we've developed the college. And so I'm just part of the board, and I think it's important because, you know, it makes me very current and aware of how young people are thinking now and the needs of society, especially here in the Philippines, in terms of arts development.
It's so interesting and inspiring, actually, to see how you're coming from all sorts of directions in pushing forth your vision for Philippine arts and culture. I mean, your work with Mint. I mean, from the academe, from that perspective, and then from here in CCP, and then with your other charitable events. So, my question is, what is your end goal, or what is your long-term vision for Philippine arts and culture?
Because we always, this is even in W17, we have a showroom, and we would put the things that were developed locally and imported things that, you know, whether they're antiques or from suppliers all over the world, we put them side by side, because a lot of stores have Filipiniana section, as if it has to be special or like, oh, baka it will pale in comparison to other things. So for us, it's because we have the best Filipino things that we're proud to sell amongst the best imported things that we're also proud to sell. And that's how I view artists here. It's not just, we're not going to hire an artist just because they're Filipino. That's not enough. They have to be good. And that is on us to make sure that we're able to promote them. Because we know they're good. We know that. But we need to be able to provide, we have to provide the platform for them, which is by producing shows, by supporting other production companies. It doesn't have to be a CCP production. It's by providing grants. And only by doing that are we able to really expand the market and really be able to show the world that the Philippines is ready for the big time. We need to be on maybe a medium scale goal. We really see ourselves as, again, becoming the regional hub of arts and culture, and for, both local and foreign artists to want to come and perform at the CCP, at the Metropolitan Theater, because they know that only the best in the world would
get to
come
play
here.
And looking back, I mean, when you imagine like your high school self passing along Ross Boulevard, looking out the window and seeing CCP, or when you were in college studying economics, did you ever imagine that you would be doing this?
No, definitely no. Because I guess maybe that's a lesson also, not just for me, but for a lot of women. Sometimes we really try to be, maybe that's a very Asian thing. We always try to say, no, it's okay. Yun na lang, yeah, yun na lang. No, okay lang. Do you want? No, it's okay. But you should always shoot for the best. And because you should know your own capability. And if you don't think you're capable, then what do you do about it? You work, you study, you learn to be that person you want to be. Nothing is impossible.
That's so interesting. Because not a lot of people would, want to learn or unlearn, actually.
Yeah.
Unlearn the stuff that they thought they would be doing.
Yes.
And to see and to hear you telling us that it's okay to unlearn and relearn, that truly is inspiring.
Thank you.
So as we wrap up the conversation, what kind of legacy would you like to leave behind? I mean, like maybe long after you've left the halls of CCP, or even long after you've done your charity work, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
I guess to really would like to think that CCP and the Philippines to become the hub of arts and culture in the region and in the world, because we really have the best artists, creatives, and we just really need for people to see that. And, years from now, I'm 90 years old and I see it happening. Nobody needs to remember me. But when I see that, I would like to see that, hey, I was part of that process.
So this is Confessions of an Icon. All right, Kaye. So it's very simple, very basic. Okay. And quick questions lang.
Okay.
First question for our Confessions of an Icon. What is your "Oops, I'm only human" moment? Can you tell us, like maybe an embarrassing story? I mean, something that you attribute to the fact that, hey, I'm just human.
Okay. I remember this was very recent. We're part of the National Commission on Culture and the Arts, and the CCP. We're part of the group that selects the Order of National Artists, and we presented to the president, of course, the short list. And part of our task is when one of our national artists pass away, we are the ones, together with the NCCA, the CCP, are the ones who produce the necrological services. Yes. So recently, as we all know, national artist Nora Nor passed away. And I was, as part of the program, as the president of CCP, I had invited, I was on stage to invite the guests to do one final round of applause for our national artists. And me being me, halfway I cried. I became very emotional, and it was like, oh my God, stop.
So literally like crying.
Yeah, no, like I just heard my voice crack. I just took a moment and I thought maybe no one noticed. And of course, everyone's like, hey, you cried, huh? It's okay. It was, I think, you know, Nora really touched all our lives.
Yes.
You know, she was on TV, so she was literally in everybody's house.
Mhm.
Hold. It was, but still, I didn't want to break into tears in front
of everyone, and
exactly.
all the esteemed guests.
Yes, exactly. It was a very formal event. They didn't need to see that.
I'm sure nobody will hold it against you. They were probably also in tears. It was a very emotional necrological service, especially actually that part when everybody was clapping.
Yeah, it was.
And then there were those
the
petals,
confetti,
the confetti falling.
In the audience, they didn't notice. It was like on TV.
Kasi close up na.
I know. It's like, ouch.
And very clear audio.
Yes.
But that's okay. But okay, this is our next one.
Mhm.
This is the great wardrobe debate. You're a self-confessed shoe girl.
Yes, yes.
That's true?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So, what is the most impulsive shoe or fashion purchase that you've ever made? And was it worth it?
I think most people will laugh because like now a lot of people are wearing sneakers and athleisure. So I tried to get in the action and I did buy a pair of nice sneakers. I wore it for half a day and my feet hurt.
Baliktad.
Baliktad, I know. It was
Okay, I'm looking at your shoes because you're used to heels.
I'm used to heels, but different heights because I'm not really used to flats.
That's so
and
funny.
I remember like, oh my God, I needed, and I had to go and buy shoes like flat sandals. I know sneakers supposed to be comfortable, but guess not for me.
So when you travel, you're not wearing sneakers.
No, like
just flats.
Less flats, yeah.
Okay.
I know it's baliktad, right?
How interesting. Sayang yung rubber shoes.
I know.
So now everybody knows never to give you rubber shoes.
Yeah, it's useless.
Okay. It's not for you. How about the show and tell wake up call revisited? So this is what you were discussing earlier, that your daughter said at show and tell that her mom just goes shopping. So, looking back, what's the funniest or most unexpected thing that any of your children have confessed about you?
About me?
Yes, about you.
I don't know if it's funny, but not so much funny, but I thought it was touching because like I try to go to hear mass with my son like on a weekday. And he actually told one of the moms in his class who saw him in church and said, "How come you go to mass? Like that's my bonding time with my mom." And I thought it was very touching, and like that's how he saw it.
That's very sweet.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So that means also when he's older and has kids of his own, you'll be bringing his kids to
Yes,
mass too.
that's how what I like it.
That's nice. Okay, if I weren't doing this dream, if you weren't president of CCP, involved in your charity work, what would you have been doing?
Okay, as a young girl, I wanted to be a lawyer.
Courtroom lawyer.
I don't know, you watch movies and they seem very heroic. And even up to now, I still like to work with lawyers because I like the way they think, because it forces you to think, to look at all sides of an argument. That is also maybe the criticism of a lawyer. You can argue both sides of an argument. But I think that's what makes it very interesting for me, to see all sides, and that's how I'd like to make a decision. So I like to consult. And my husband's not a lawyer, but both my in-laws are. Both his parents are. And even before, I always like to listen in. And at one point, I was even assisting my father-in-law when my husband was a mayor, to just to see how a lawyer thinks, and I'd like to apply it even to myself, day-to-day decisions.
But a lot of people go to law school, even at any
yes,
age.
I know.
So,
I was tempted. I was tempted.
So, baka next time we interview you, you're already
I know.
Attorney Kaye.
Yeah, I know. Attorney Kaye. Finally.
All right, this one, your most treasured possession, and in parentheses it says non-diamond.
Okay. Wow, back in the day when my parents got married, I think before people would have a chest, like a camphor chest.
Baul,
ganyan.
Right,
Literally baul. Baul, literally, where you put the gifts that your parents give you before you got married. And I'm so lucky, or maybe my sisters will know now, I have it. I have my mom's. I don't know if they know it. At first, my mom was moving to houses. So she said, do you have a place to keep it? So I said, yeah, I can keep all your things. And when I sent by everything, I didn't send back. Because it's there, and it reminds me of my mom, and it reminds me of a different time. It's beautiful. I don't think they make it like that. They make things like that anymore.
How about a parenting confession? Because when you were younger, you shared a room with your siblings. Did you make your children do the same?
Yes,
share a room?
the boys share a room, the girls
and then the
share
girls. So, did you have to like mediate or anything with your kids?
No, because I guess when they grew up, okay, parenting confession, when they were young, I liked them to sleep in my room. It was only when they became older that they're like, Mom, please. So, okay. But I'd like to think they don't mind. They don't complain to me, maybe to their friends. But I think it's important to be able to become more adaptable and flexible.
So until what age were you able to keep them in your room?
Early teens.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah,
not bad.
And when I hear people are like, oh my God, my mom's like, what's wrong with that?
yeah, what's wrong with that?
Trying to keep you safe.
Okay, how about a Red Charity Gala behind the scenes secret? I mean, there must have been lots of things going on behind the scenes in those 14 years.
Well, initially it would just be me and Tessa making the decision on who the next designer of the year will be. Now it's almost like a group decision, and we talk to all the designers because I guess they also have an equal stake in it, because we want to make sure that the designer we choose is worthy and one that will make an impact, not a dressmaker, a real designer that people can look up to and who makes a difference in fashion here in the country. So actually, when people are like, sige niya na lang, it's not just me. I really consult because that's really part of our process, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
Baka marami rin magalit if it's just you.
Ay, nako. Ganyan na nga. True.
All right. Well, Kaye, thank you so much.
You.
Thank you for spending time with us to talk about all these things. And we really do look forward to what you have in store for us. And to seeing Philippine arts and culture rise again. I mean, it hasn't really gone, but, to see it get the recognition that it truly deserves. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and download Power Talks with Pia Arcangel on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or GMA Integrated News social media platforms.